All right, so I think with Joe Biden's sudden success after Super Tuesday that he has just handed Donald Trump his second term. Here's my first thoughts. Now, this video is not all about Bernie Sanders, but I think to really get to the point about Biden, you have to talk about Sanders first. The Democratic establishments want you to believe that Sanders is going to be a terrible candidate in a general election because he's too extreme, he's too liberal, he's too progressive, and he won't be able to bring in this mass of independent people, middle-of-the-road people in the America, that he would alienate them, and he'd probably turn off, suppress the voters in the Democratic Party itself. Leading up to Super Tuesday, there was numerous news reports coming out over and over again about how a Sanders victory would actually hurt the down ballot candidates for House and Senate and state and things like that. And I'm not sure I agree with that entirely. Now, you see, I really don't like Bernie Sanders and his politics. I actually respect the man for having policies that he's stuck with for 40 years. He is consistent, if nothing else. But I think that most of his policies are not only un-American, I think they're actually anti-American. But the man can get people excited. He can get them motivated, and he can fill seats. I think he's probably the only politician in America right now who comes close to Trump in terms of filling up venues and getting people in the seats. We know that once a candidate is selected for either one of the parties, but the Democratic Party in this case, the party will unite behind him. The other politicians and the voters will largely unite behind him. So they'll unite behind him, and he has the ability to get people excited and get them out. So I don't think that you'd see a suppression of Democratic excitement if Bernie Sanders won. But the argument still is that Biden is better equipped to unite the party, the liberals and the moderates, and then reach into the middle of American politics for where they believe there is this mass of dissatisfied voters who are just really kind of tired of Trump. And I think this is a strategic mistake. And I think that what's happening in the Democratic primary is it's disturbing as well as just being sad. The Democratic establishment and their marketing arm, which we call the mass media, is pushing this narrative against Bernie Sanders. They are pushing for Joe Biden. And isn't it ironic that when Biden did poorly in the first few caucuses or first few states, you know what I'm saying, they were like, oh, well, most of the nation hasn't voted yet. But once he won South Carolina, all of a sudden they're like, look at this. He is the chosen one. He has arrived. And all of a sudden the establishment closed ranks behind him very, very quickly. Read the articles, and Biden has done a terrible job of running. He fades away during the debates. Every once in a while he shows some life, and then he just disappears for days and days on end. He's not been very good at raising money. He hasn't established the on-the-ground structure in the offices in most of these states. He was incredibly weak in every single way, yet somehow Super Tuesday came around and he surprised everybody. Well, the only way that happens is when the entire establishment gets behind you and pushes you to the front, forces you. Here he is, look at him. And that's what happened. And I think this is a tactical mistake on the Democrats' part. I think Sanders would actually get people excited. He would alienate certainly people like me who would never vote for him. I'd vote for a libertarian before I vote Vermin Supreme. I'd vote for him. But Biden is not the answer. Now, primarily, Biden is older than Trump. And again, he tends to just fade away at times. When Trump and Biden have a debate, which Biden is going to show up? Is it going to be the one who acts like he's on his medication and is super excited and forceful and experienced, or is he just going to kind of fade away again? We don't know. But Biden has a lot of problems that I think certainly are going to be upplayed by the Trump campaign. Number one is he's creepy. He likes to come up behind people and put his hands on their shoulders or sneak in for a kiss to tell them how wonderful they are. You know, certainly we can't forget several weeks ago or a couple months ago, his wife was giving a speech and he leaned forward and nibbled on her fingers. But more importantly is he has a habit of committing gaffes where he confuses Nevada and New Hampshire. He was at a rally, I think it was in South Carolina, and he called it North South Carolina. Yeah, things like this. He lied about working on a climate accord deal with somebody who died, what was it, 19 years beforehand. You know, he lied about being arrested with Nelson, well, I think while visiting Nelson Mandela. The fact of the matter is, individually, these are just gaffes. And I am fair. I may have my opinions, but I do try to be fair. People live, say something, and they don't mean it. They say it wrong. They have a slip of the tongue, and they make mistakes. You know, just think about Obama when he said he visited, what was it, all 52 states or something like that. People make mistakes, okay? But when it starts to become a trend, now it's not individual mistakes. Now it's a 78-year-old man who consistently makes mistakes. And I'm not convinced that he's not suffering from a cognitive decline. And is that the man we want as president? And I think the Trump team certainly knows creepy Joe Biden, sleepy Joe Biden, and then the gaffes he's making over here, and I think they will hammer him with it. Also, he's just not exciting. And that's finally, I think, going to be the end result. People, exit polls show, people made up their mind at the last minute. The establishment wants you to believe that there's this mass of people who want to vote Trump out. The only thing they want to do is vote Trump out. They don't care who wins as long as it's not Trump. And that's not enough to get people excited and go to the polls. Finally, and I'm looking for this, if I can find it, I'll put it here in the video. Texas. You know, Texas has been moving purple, right? Beto O'Rourke, you know, he came out and he did such a good job against Ted Cruz, and Democrats believe this is their year. But when you look at the polls on Super Tuesday, if you take every one of the Democratic candidates and add up all the votes they received, it was still less than what Donald Trump received in his primary. And that's stunning, because if the Democrats are excited, if the Democrats have all these great candidates, the Democrats are getting out, standing in line for 7 hours to vote, and Trump, who is unopposed, still gets more in a primary, that is bad foreshadowing for what's going to happen when Joe Biden, Mr. Not Exciting, is running for president. I think it's a huge mistake that the establishment threw their weight behind Biden. I think he's probably going to be the candidate, and I think that he will give Trump his second term. Leave me your comments below.